as Rochelle said, my name's Claire Foy. I'm Head of Learning and Professional Development at Coutts Bank. And I'm going to talk you through our innovative approach to leadership. So let me just get our slides up and see if I can share my screen. Let me know if you can't see this. I don't know how you're going to let me know, but I'll work it out. So I'm going to give you some background to Coutts & Co. For those of you that don't know, we're an old bank. We're 328 years old and a little bit. We've got very traditional values. Obviously, we've been around a long, long time, but we've got a very modern approach. And that's mostly in part down to this chap here, Peter Flavel, our CEO. He's the first non-Brit to run the bank, and he joined us in 2016. And he brought with him a real flair and a sort of sense of art of the possible. And he really leads with that kind of drive and passion. He brings with him a very modern approach to everything we do. And his strapline is very much about we're more than a bank. He's very purpose-led, as is the business at the moment. And he's seen here sitting in our rooftop garden in the Strand. This garden was created a few years ago, and it grows fruit and vegetables. And then one day he was known to write on his whiteboard in his office, bees, exclamation mark. And we now have 30,000 bees on the roof of the Strand that pollinate all these lovely flowers. And they actually produce honey as well. So we use that in our kitchens. At the moment, obviously, we're not using our kitchen in the Strand. And so all the fruit and veg and honey that's being produced is being distributed to the homeless charities around. So he really brings with him this sort of purpose-led approach. Our clients are very, very diverse. We sort of use the term from tattoos to tiaras. And we're really proud of the range of clients we've got. The longevity of our employees is another key factor. You'll quite often meet people that have been in the business 30, 40 years. And we also take on lots of graduates, but actually we find that people do stick around. So they like working with us, and we do say you sort of become part of the family. The one thing Peter noticed, however, when he first joined, was that this flair and sort of vision that he brought with him, our leaders didn't seem to be able to do. And so he approached me and asked me to do something for leader engagement. He wanted me to come up with a program that sort of gave them vision and strategy and got them thinking critically and really elevated them to be world-class leaders. And needless to say, he wanted it urgently. And I thought, oh my Lord, there's me. I've got my very own bee moment. So I took on the challenge, and I did some research as to what I thought we should do for a proper leadership program. So I appreciate you might not all be able to read the screen, but I know the slides will be shared later. So I looked into the keys for future leadership. And the one thing that struck me, this list came from Forbes, but there are many similar to it. The one thing that struck me was that previous leadership programs that we had run as a group were not actually covering any of these areas, particularly the emotional intelligence, critical thinking, decision-making, judgment. Everything we'd done in the past seemed to be very much and really not giving our leaders that ability to decide for themselves and come up with their own way of thinking. And so in particular for me, the top 5 things from this were really, really key to any program that I designed. And this was quite different to anything we thought of in the past. The one thing that I was very aware of within the business was our learning culture. And for any of you that work in the financial industry, you'll probably appreciate that after 2008, when the credit crunch hit, learning became something that was done to people in the business, mainly to fill the compliance and regulatory concerns that were understandable after 2008. But for the individuals within the business, it was very much creating a fixed mindset where people didn't want to learn because learning was done to them. Learning was mandated. It was usually heavily regulated, compliant. And in particular, the leadership programs that had been run were a set of tools on how to manage people rather than sort of guidance on how to lead. So very much one size fits all. And so I knew that to approach leaders, and again, with the longevity of the employees, some of our leaders have been around for a while, that to approach them with another leadership program, I really had to engage them. And so what I wanted to do is move to this growth mindset where they were reaching out to me to do this training because they thought it would benefit them. So to do that, I thought the most important thing was actually to ask them what they felt they needed. I myself was obviously a leader, so I had my own opinion, but I did lots of research with them. And then in order to get that engagement, I had to create something that would fill the gap that they'd told me about. So this was where I sort of built some trust. But what I was really aiming for was this benefit mindset to leadership, where they want to be better leaders because it's better for their business. It's better for the people they lead. And actually they are leaders because of their behavior, not because they've been promoted to do it. And so we had a bit of a cultural shift to do. And that was definitely one of the approaches I had to consider as well. So the ask really was that I needed to increase the engagement of our leaders. I needed to help them create psychologically safe environments and maximize their own strengths, plus those of people in their team, be a very strength-based approach. We wanted world-class leaders of the future. And one of the things we've done in the past with leadership programs is we focus on the existing leaders. And we kind of not really reached down to those that were people managers, but were ready to lead in the future. We wanted problem solving, strategic thinking, but key to all of it was that adaptability and flexibility of our leaders. And then selfishly, I wanted to reinvigorate the culture of learning. So to create them something tangible that they could take away and that they wanted to take away. I call this one courageous collaboration. And I was lucky enough at this time, after doing lots of research, I was lucky enough to meet a very small company called Mindflick. Dr. Mark Borden and Dr. Pete Lindsay. I'm sure as HR people, you'll all know how many people approach you on a daily basis. But there was something different about this company. They both came from the world of elite sport, and they had an excellent track record with the likes of Jessica Ennis-Hill. They've been working with Manchester City. They ran the 2012 GB team for performance coaching. But the other thing that I really liked, that I knew my business would appreciate, is that they were not ex-financiers. They weren't people who had left finance coming back to teach people in finance how to be better leaders or how to be better financial advisors. And they weren't a training company. So they had this really fresh approach. And really what they were offering is a tool that they'd created, which looked at obviously people's behaviors, because most psychological tools do that. But because of their work in elite sports, what they'd looked at is how people react under pressure. And this tool, which is called Spotlight, really was the game changer for me, in that it took something very complex and made it into a very simple understanding of how people behave and how people under pressure behave. And in our world, and in I'm sure all of your worlds, people are under pressure an awful lot. And so this was kind of this was the business that really grabbed me. So we decided to build a program together. The journey that we've got, we had a 5-day program laid out, and we realized that we wanted to build in those, certainly the top 5 things that we spoke about. So we had emotional intelligence as a workshop, high performing teams, pig wrestling, which is problem solving, and super strengths. But what was important is that we didn't run this as a 5-day workshop, because we knew that saturation of knowledge and the quantity of what they had to learn was going to be too much. And because this was not leadership as they knew it, and certainly nothing to do with finance and nothing to do with their day job, we knew that this was going to be a brand new subject for them. So what we arranged to do is spread the 5 days over 5 months, and we split each module out by a month. So after the first 2 days where they understood the profile themselves, we then sent them back to the business and we asked them to do a debrief profile on every single person in their team. And what we found this did is it took that shift away from self-awareness, which was great, and they got that on the workshop. but it became more about awareness of others and perception of others on their team. And they realized it was less about them and much more about who they're working with. The high performance teams workshop set them up to go back to their business and run some team sessions, which we hosted and we supported them with, where we could map everybody on their team and see how they were working best, see if they were playing to people's strengths, and to also look at the empty chair in the team and see where they were perhaps missing a trick. The one-day pig wrestling workshop is all about critical thinking and reframing problems. And so within that session, they were able to reframe a problem that they tried to solve for many years and hadn't been able to, or many months. And then when we sent them back to the business for a month, we asked them to use this framework with problems in their team, and they were using it in team sessions, team exercises, and we're getting some really tangible results, which I'll come to. And then the final day, after sort of 4 months, was a super strengths workshop where you tap into your own super strength and make, or your own strength and make that your super strength. But then identify how to do that with the individuals in your team. So it becomes a very personal program, not just for the leaders that have gone through it, but for every single individual in that person's team. They got a really, really personal approach. But of course, that wasn't enough either. And you can still do that over 5 months and people can love it. But what we knew we needed to do was a 2-year embedding program after that. And so this sort of very messy thing on the right hand side corner is our detailed approach, which I don't expect you to read at all. But we knew we had to do this embedding program. So in order to launch this, I knew I needed a cultural shift. The first thing we had to do was we had to create interest. And so we wanted to run a pilot first. We wanted to use creative language and make them feel like they'd been selected. So we used a selection process. And I particularly picked out leaders that were either very well respected or had really struggled on previous leadership programs and did not engage with them at all. I wanted to take them out of the work environment to stop them being distracted. And the key thing was I offered them a place. I didn't mandate it, and I still don't mandate it to this day. It's an offer of an exceptional training program. So when people told me they couldn't make all the dates I set out, I very politely said, that's brilliant, don't worry, we'll put you on the wait list. And that in itself created this interest. I don't expect you to read this, but this was an example of an email that we sent to them. And you'll see here, we've really started to build a buzz around it. So you have been selected by EXCO to enroll in one of the first 3 cohorts. So that makes it feel new. Specifically designed, gave it that bespoke feel. So it was just about them. Performance psychology, cutting edge. They'd never done that before. The program will change the way you think as a leader. And that was important to us because we didn't want them to think that they weren't doing a good job already. We just wanted them to think slightly differently. And this program gave them the time to think as a leader. It will enhance the way you influence change. So again, improve on what you're already doing. And then just to remind them, it's a large investment in you. So it was really very much about them. And this was not a sheep dip approach. I'm not saying it worked brilliantly. We had some people, one person in particular came up to me the day before his program and said, what is this bleep you're sending me on? I've had enough bleep programs to last me a lifetime. And I really just had to say, you've got to trust me on this one. So I was putting my neck on the line. So when we rolled out Think, what we did is we did a pilot of 3 cohorts of 14 leaders. So that was 42 people we put through it. The NPS score was fantastic, so 9.3 out of 10. But most importantly for the pilot is we have a staff survey, and we looked at the results on 4 key metrics on the staff survey. And for the people that had been through the Think pilot, their results had gone up by, on average, 16 points, which was unheard of. So we knew we had something. The feedback from not only the leaders, but also from the individuals in their team was really powerful as well. So we decided to roll out to the final 140 leaders in the business. We now have over 1,400 individual profiles in the business, and people are living and breathing these. They really do make sense to them. And this was over an 18-month period. We have, my team, the learning team, have run over 46 team sessions where we look at psychological safety. We've run town halls for the whole business and for smaller parts of the bank. We do over 250 coaching interactions with these leaders on how to really build on their knowledge from Think and what they've learned from it. And we've done 12 individual extra pig wrestles, which with much bigger things, like looking at diversity and inclusion in the business, how a mortgage process is run. So we've really taken that further. And the final thing is the feedback was critical. So feedback from the leaders themselves, from the staff, through the staff survey and lots of other means, but also from Exco, had they noticed a difference in our leaders, and the results were they had. So the 4 key staff survey metrics, as I said, were the engagement index, the trust and respect, my manager, and developing people. And as you can see, they've all increased over the 2-year period that from running the program to now. The managing my people and developing people, my manager and developing people, we've been trying to shift those for a number of years, and actually this is the thing that seemed to do it. We also created this new language. As you can see on the picture in the corner, we ran a leadership event, and that was the word cloud, and the key words that came out was flex and flexible, and really they have learned this flexible approach. Critical thinking, I've put one example here just to see some sort of tangible financial results, because it's always difficult with learning programs. We did one pig wrestle, as we call it, which was an example of a problem clean. It was a process change where we made the manager made one slight tweak to his approach, and as a result there are an extra 4 mortgages a week coming to the business that would have been sent out to other companies, and that resulted in about 130 million in mortgages retained. This was over a 6-month period, and that 324,000 arrangement fees that we'd collected from those mortgages that we would have sent out to brokers actually has paid for the whole programme in its entirety. And to reinvigorate the culture of learning, we really did that. We have a high NPS on this now, but we also get comments that this is the best thing they've ever been on. Most importantly for me, I have leaders getting quite angry at me for not getting a place on it, and I have a huge wait list now, even for people that are not leaders that want to become leaders of the future. So we really have reinvigorated that. So my key learnings, for me in particular, pace. I was asked to do this urgently. I didn't. I put my neck on the line to go with a small company that wasn't on panel. It was important that I looked at what we'd done in the past and what hadn't worked. Intuition over instinct. I did go with my gut a lot of the time, but I had to make sure it wasn't just at pace. Collaborating, it was experts in the fields, but across industries. That really resonated with my people, to have 2 doctors in psychology tell them how they behave and why they behave the way they do and why others behave that way was the most amazing, insightful moments to see. Making bold decisions, I think being brave was something that I learned. Like, really, if you believe in something, you know it'll make a difference, go for it. Creating interest was definitely something we needed to do, that PR. And then resilience. I had a lot of pushback. Like I said, it took me 2 years to get this through, and there was a lot of resilience built in that. And I've learned a lot myself about it. But then the final thing that I really learned is that follow-up, and we're still following up now. And actually in where we are with COVID-19, we've brought it to life more than ever before, and we're running whole bank sessions, we're running team sessions, and we're really bringing to life everything that we taught them on those programs. And it has shown a big difference in people's resilience.